Be me, just a regular woman trying to navigate the world. For years, my social life was basically set in stone. I had my group. It was me and the guys, Sean, James, and Ricardo. We'd known each other forever, since we were all awkward teenagers. Sean was my best friend, the one I could talk to about anything. We had a bond that felt unbreakable. James was the cynical, pragmatic one, a little rough around the edges, but loyal. Ricardo was the chill one, the group's easygoing core. He just wanted to grill burgers and play video games. For a long time, it was perfect. I was one of the guys. They treated me like a sister. I never felt weird being the only woman in the group. Our hangouts were the usual stuff. Pizza and game nights at Sean's apartment, summer barbecues, grabbing a beer at some dive bar. It was comfortable. A couple of years ago, though, something in my perspective started to shift. I started reading more, listening to different voices, understanding the structures that govern our society. It felt like a veil was lifted from my eyes. I started seeing things I couldn't unsee. The little things, the casual comments, the media we consumed, it was all dripping with problems. And I felt a responsibility to talk about it, especially with my closest friends. I thought if anyone would understand, it would be them. They were good men, just a bit oblivious. My goal wasn't to attack them, it was to help them see, to help them be better. At first, it seemed fine. I'd point something out, and they'd kinda nod along, even if they didn't fully get it. But slowly, I started to feel like I was talking to a brick wall. The first time it got really awkward was during one of our game nights. It was a Friday, maybe late fall, because it was already dark and cold outside. We were all at Sean's place. He'd just bought some new fantasy RPG everyone was excited about. They were a few hours in when I showed up after finishing some errands. The air was thick with the smell of pizza and the sounds of button mashing. I grabbed a slice and sat down on the couch to watch. Ricardo was playing a heavily armored warrior. James was some kind of rogue, and Sean was a sorceress. I watched for a few minutes, and the design of Sean's character just started to grate on me. She was supposed to be this all-powerful magic user, yet she was wearing what amounted to a glorified swimsuit made of metal. It was absurd. I tried to bring it up casually. I mentioned how funny it is that male characters in games get full plate armor, but female characters are lucky if their vital organs are covered. Ricardo chuckled but didn't look away from the screen. James just grunted. Sean was the only one who responded, saying something like, "Yeah, it's pretty dumb, but the magic stats are insane." I couldn't just leave it at that. This was a teachable moment. I started explaining how it's a classic example of designing for the male gaze, how it reduces a potentially strong female character to simple eye candy, reinforcing the idea that a woman's value is tied to her appearance, even in a world with dragons. The room got noticeably quieter. The button mashing slowed down. I could feel the mood shifting from fun and relaxed to something heavy, like a classroom. Ricardo cleared his throat and made a joke about how his warrior's armor wasn't exactly practical either. I told him that wasn't the point. His character wasn't sexualized. He was designed to look powerful. It's a fundamental difference in design philosophy. James finally put his controller down and looked at me. He said it was just a game they were trying to play to unwind after a long week. I felt a flash of frustration. That's the core of the problem. People dismiss these things as just a game or just a movie, not realizing that this is how harmful norms are perpetuated. It's the subtle, everyday stuff that does the most damage. I told him that. I explained that refusing to think critically about the media we consume is a form of complicity. Sean, trying to be the peacemaker as always, suggested we just take a break and put some music on. The energy was completely drained from the room. They soon made excuses about being tired and the night ended early. I left feeling a little disappointed. It felt like they were actively resisting the conversation. I wasn't trying to ruin their fun, I was trying to add substance to it. A few weeks later, a similar thing happened on movie night. They wanted to watch some old action movie from their childhood. A big, dumb, explosive blockbuster. I agreed, thinking it could be fun to watch it from a modern perspective. It was worse than I remembered. The main female character was literally a trophy to be won. She had no agency, no goals of her own. She just screamed and looked pretty. The male hero was a walking bundle of toxic masculinity, solving every problem with his fists, showing no emotion except for anger, and treating women like objects. Halfway through, I just had to pause it. I asked them, Do you guys realize how problematic this is? James threw his hands up in the air. Ricardo suddenly became very interested in his phone. Sean just looked tired. He asked if we could please just watch the movie. I tried to explain that it's not about the movie itself, but about what it represents, about the messages we absorb when we watch things like this uncritically. The conversation went in circles. They saw me as a killjoy, and I saw them as willfully ignorant. After that, the invitations to movie nights started to dry up. They'd still invite me to hang out, but it felt like they were carefully curating the activities to be safe from my critique. We'd go for hikes or to a bar where the music was too loud to talk deeply. It felt like they were managing me, not engaging with me. The real turning point, the moment I think things truly started to break, was over something much more serious. It was in our group chat. Sean sent a message one afternoon. He was clearly upset. He'd been working towards a promotion at his job for over a year, putting in extra hours, taking on new projects. Everyone knew he deserved it. He wrote that they gave the promotion to a woman from another department. He said she had less experience and had been with the company for a shorter time. He was venting. He felt defeated and invisible. He was looking for support from his friends. James and Ricardo sent messages like, "That's terrible, man," and "You were robbed." I saw the situation differently. I saw the bigger picture. I took a moment to compose my reply. I wanted to be gentle but firm. I wrote back that while I understood his personal disappointment, he should try to see it from a systemic perspective. I explained that his industry is notoriously male-dominated, and that sometimes companies make these kinds of decisions to address historical imbalances and promote equity. It might not feel fair on an individual level, but it could be a necessary step towards a more just workplace for everyone. I ended by saying that this was an opportunity for him to check his privilege and understand that the world isn't always designed to benefit him. I hit send, feeling like I had offered a difficult but important perspective. The chat went dead silent, not a single reply. Not from Sean, not from James, not from anyone. My message just sat there, a block of text in a sea of silence. For the rest of the day, no one wrote anything. The chat was frozen. I told myself they were probably just processing what I said. It's a complex topic. It can be uncomfortable to confront your own privilege, but a part of me felt a cold knot forming in my stomach. Sean was my best friend. He was hurting, and my first instinct was to give him a lecture on social justice. Maybe the timing was off. Maybe the delivery was too blunt. But the message itself was true, and I believed he needed to hear it. A week went by, and things were palpably strange. Conversations in the chat were short and superficial. Plans were vague. Then James sent out an invite for a barbecue at his place. He said it was time to finally take advantage of the good weather, and he mentioned he was bringing someone he wanted us to meet, his new girlfriend. I was happy for him. James had a tough time with dating. He was guarded and a bit cynical. I hoped this new person would be good for him. The day of the barbecue was perfect. Sunny, warm, a light breeze. I arrived a little late and saw everyone was already in the backyard. James was at the grill, Ricardo was setting up some lawn game, and Sean was talking to a woman I'd never seen before. She must be the new girlfriend. She was exactly the type I expected James to go for. Very pretty in a conventional way. Sweet smile, quiet demeanor. She was laughing at something Sean said. A very delicate, polite laugh. James came over and introduced us. She was perfectly nice. Shook my hand, said it was great to finally meet me, that she'd heard so much about the group. She had even brought a homemade potato salad. Of course she had. Throughout the afternoon, I watched her. I tried to engage her in a real conversation, to get a sense of who she was beyond being James's partner. I asked her what she did for a living, what her passions were. Her answers were all very safe. She worked in administration. She liked baking and gardening. She loved listening to James talk about his work. Every time James spoke, her eyes would be glued to him, hanging on his every word. When he made a lame joke, she'd be the first and loudest to laugh. She kept asking if anyone needed another drink, if she could help with the food. She was constantly serving. It was honestly a little sad to watch. She was erasing herself to make him feel bigger. At one point, we were sitting at the patio table, and I tried to connect with her on a deeper level. I asked her in a friendly tone if she ever felt like her own identity got lost when she was so focused on supporting her partners. She looked confused, then glanced at James as if for permission to speak. He gave her a reassuring nod. She just smiled and said that she loved supporting James and that his happiness made her happy. It was like talking to a doll programmed with stock phrases from the 1950s. Later, James was telling a long, rambling story about a problem he solved at work. I could see Ricardo was bored, and Sean was just politely listening. But his girlfriend was completely captivated, her expression full of awe. It was so performative. I couldn't help myself. I asked her, "Don't you have your own opinions, or do you just let James do the thinking for both of you?" I said it with a smile, to show I was teasing, but the smile on her face vanished. James shot me a look that was pure ice. The atmosphere immediately dropped 20 degrees. She mumbled something about needing to use the restroom and quickly went inside. James just stared at me, his jaw tight. "What was that?" he finally said, his voice low and angry. I was taken aback. I told him I was just trying to joke around, to get her to open up a bit. He said it didn't sound like a joke. After she came back, the dynamic was ruined. She stayed close to James and barely said another word to me. When it was time to go, she gave me a brief, chilly goodbye. After they left, I stayed to help Sean and Ricardo clean up. Once we were alone, I had to say something. I turned to them and said, "Okay guys, for real, what is up with her?" They both stopped what they were doing and looked at me. She's a walking stereotype of internalized misogyny. It's like she has no personality of her own outside of him. James is a smart guy. He can do so much better than some Stepford wife in training. I expected them to agree, or at least see my point. Ricardo just shrugged and continued packing up the leftover food, avoiding my eyes. But Sean's reaction shocked me. He didn't say a word. He just put down the trash bag he was holding, gave me a long, unreadable look, and then walked away toward the front of the house. He didn't even say goodbye, just left. I stood there in the fading sunlight, completely bewildered. It was just an observation. It was the truth. Why was everyone acting so weird? The days after the barbecue were quiet, unusually quiet. The group chat, which normally had a constant stream of memes, random thoughts, and plans, was a ghost town. At first, I didn't think much of it. I figured James was still sulking about my comments, and Sean was probably giving him some space. It felt childish, but I decided to be the bigger person and let them cool off. They needed time to process things. Sometimes growth is uncomfortable. I spent the rest of the week focused on my own stuff: work, reading, catching up on podcasts. By Friday, the silence was starting to feel less like they were cooling off and more like they were deliberately ignoring me. I decided to break the ice. I posted in the chat, "Anyone up for game night tonight? My treat on the pizza." I waited. An hour passed. Nothing. Another hour. Still nothing. The message just sat there, marked as read by everyone, but with no reply. This was new. Even if they were busy, Ricardo would usually jump at the offer of free pizza and games. A little flicker of annoyance started in my chest. This was getting ridiculous. Were they really all going to give me the silent treatment over a single comment? I tried to rationalize it. Maybe they had all made plans together and felt awkward saying so. It stung a little, the idea of them hanging out without me, but it wasn't the end of the world. The weekend came and went in total silence. By Monday, my annoyance was turning into genuine concern, mixed with a healthy dose of anger. This wasn't just immature anymore, it was disrespectful. I had been a part of this group for over a decade. I deserved, at the very least, a conversation. I decided to message Sean directly. He was always the reasonable one. He was my best friend. I sent him a text. "Hey, is everything okay? The chat is dead and nobody's responding. Did I miss something?" I watched my phone. The message was marked as delivered, but the red receipt never came. That was strange. Sean was always on his phone. Maybe he was in a meeting. I gave it a few hours. By the evening, it was still just sitting there, delivered but unread. The cold knot in my stomach was back, and it was tighter this time. Something was wrong. This wasn't just them being moody. This felt coordinated. I scrolled through our old conversations. Years of friendship, jokes, late-night talks about everything and nothing. Had I really misjudged the situation at the barbecue so badly? I replayed it in my head. My comments were pointed, yes, but they came from a place of concern. I was worried about James, and I was trying to empower his girlfriend to find her own voice. It was a feminist act, an act of solidarity, and they were treating me like I had committed some unforgivable crime. It was Tuesday night. I was at home, trying to watch a show, but I couldn't focus. My mind kept circling back to the silence. It was an active silence now, a weaponized silence. I picked up my phone, my thumb hovering over our group chat icon. I needed to see if anyone had finally said anything. I opened the app. I scrolled to where the chat usually was. It wasn't there. I blinked, thinking I must have scrolled past it. I scrolled up and down again, more slowly this time. The chat, the one named Bro Time, that had been a fixture on my phone for years, was gone. My heart started to beat a little faster. This had to be a glitch. Maybe the app was bugging out. I closed it and reopened it. Still nothing. I restarted my phone, my hands feeling a little shaky. The phone booted back up. I held my breath as I opened the app. The chat was still gone. Okay. This was not a glitch. A wave of cold dread washed over me. You don't just accidentally delete a group chat for everyone. Someone has to remove a member. They had removed me. My mind raced. I opened up the gaming app we all used, the one with our dedicated server for voice chat. I looked at my server list. It was gone too. It was like I was being systematically erased from our shared digital spaces. The panic was real now. This was a deliberate, unified act. I had to talk to someone. I had to know why. I went straight to my messages with Sean. His text was still sitting there, unread. I typed out a new one, my fingers fumbling with the keys. "Sean, what is going on? Why am I kicked out of the chats?" I sent it. Delivered, not read. I couldn't wait. I messaged James next. I didn't even try to be nice. Seriously? Kicking me out of everything because I made a comment about your girlfriend? That is beyond pathetic. Delivered, not read. My last hope was Ricardo. He hated conflict. He wouldn't be a willing participant in this. They must have pressured him. "Ricky, please, just tell me what is happening. Why is everyone doing this?" Delivered, not read. I sat on my couch, staring at the 3 separate chat windows on my phone. 3 messages sent out into the void. 3 walls of silence. The minutes ticked by. 5 minutes, 10, 20. The silence was my answer. It was the loudest, cruelest answer they could have given. They weren't just mad. They had abandoned me. All of them. Together. They must have made another chat without me. The thought was a punch to the gut. They were probably in there right now, talking about me, validating each other's decision to cut me out. The image of them all laughing, feeling relieved that the problem was gone, made me feel sick. My anger boiled over. This was a betrayal on a level I couldn't comprehend. After everything, all the years of friendship, all the times I was there for them. I had listened to Sean's relationship problems for hours on end. I had helped James move apartments 3 different times. I had proofread Ricardo's resume for him. I wasn't just some lecturing shrew. I was their friend, wasn't I? I decided I couldn't take the passive silence anymore. I needed to hear a voice. I went to my contacts and hit the call button next to Sean's name. The phone rang, and rang, and rang. It felt like an eternity. Each ring echoed in the silent apartment, mocking me. Finally, it went to his voicemail. "Hey, it's Sean. Leave a message." I hung up without saying anything. My throat was too tight to speak. He had seen my call. He had watched it ring and deliberately ignored it. My hands were trembling now. I tried James next. I pressed the call button. It made a weird, short beeping sound, and the call immediately ended. I tried again. Same thing. He hadn't just ignored me. He had blocked my number. The finality of it hit me like a physical blow. Blocked. A function you use on spammers and harassers, not on a friend of 10 years. I didn't even bother trying to call Ricardo. I knew what the result would be. I was completely locked out. They had built a fortress and I was on the outside, in the cold, all 3 of them. It had been planned, a conspiracy of silence. My entire support system, the foundation of my social life, had decided in unison that I was no longer welcome. They had held a secret meeting, a trial where I wasn't present to defend myself, and they had passed their sentence. Banishment. I looked at my phone, at the screen that was now a symbol of my isolation. The people I thought I knew better than anyone had become a united front against me, all because I challenged them, all because I refused to sit quietly and smile while they indulged in their comfortable, unexamined worldviews. I had one last thing to say. I opened my message thread with Sean again. My best friend. I didn't even know what I wanted to write. I just needed to send something. One last scream into the abyss. My thumbs moved on their own, typing out a single desperate question. Why are you doing this to me? I hit send. I watched the message appear in the chat bubble, but something was different. Underneath the text, there wasn't a delivered status. There was just a single, lonely gray check mark. Message sent, but not delivered. My breath hitched. I knew what that meant. While I had been trying to call James, Sean had blocked me too. I was officially, completely, and utterly alone. I sat there in the dark, my face lit only by the pale glow of the screen, staring at that single gray check mark, the symbol of an ended friendship, an unanswered question. The silence was absolute.